And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus on this relatively wintry looking Wednesday, February 18th. Temperatures outside right around that 30-degree mark. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki, along with our Ag Director Bridgette Readel. Good afternoon, Bridgette. And how much snow did you get into your neck of the woods?
Probably about 2 inches of snow. Did not have my darter plastic rain gauge out to catch last night's heavy rainfall. Now, maybe it didn't accumulate to a lot, but you could literally hear rain hammering the roof last night. So
Mm-hmm.
interesting to note how much rainfall was occurring right around 6 o'clock.
Yeah, and there was some thunder north of you as well. Reports of
Bismarck saw lightning.
Yeah. It was a kind of a weird setup. There were reports of a quarter to a third of an inch of rainfall, and we picked up about 2 inches of snow, like you did, Bridgette, here in the FM area as well. The big snow winner looked to be about Devil's Lake area, where they picked up 10 inches. Areas around Thief River over towards Bemidji picked up over 6. Grand Forks picked up about 3 to 4. Aberdeen, oddly enough, had blizzard conditions through most of the morning. They got hammered with snow. Now, we've got snow right now that is stretching on about a line from Devil's Lake through Jamestown and arcing back towards Wahpeton. That's the back edge of the storm. And although we've seen a break in the action right now, we will see more snow pushing in from the west and southwest up and down the valley as we head into late afternoon and evening. So that will produce a little bit of slippery travel for your evening commute. I'm not looking for a lot of additional snow, maybe an inch, 2 possible. And then that will wind down by midnight. We'll have temperatures falling into the 20s, so any untreated surfaces will be a little bit slick overnight. And then tomorrow we'll see a few scattered snow showers, little to no accumulation with temps in the 20s. And then as we head into the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, looking like temperatures in the teens for highs. Overnight lows 0 to 5 below. And next week, we'll briefly warm it up into the 20s on Tuesday ahead of another system that's a weak one. That'll bring us a little light snow late in the day on Tuesday. And then colder weather follows that. I don't see any big storms on the horizon. The LRC was hinting at something end of the month into that first 5 days of March. We could have a stronger system coming through then, and we'll keep an eye on that. But after that first week in March, according to the LRC, it looks like we'll return to above normal temperatures. So we got about another 2 weeks of this at or below normal temperature regime, which we can handle. It's February anyway. And after this storm, no real big storms that I can see on the horizon through next week. So we'll quiet things down and have seasonally cold temperatures throughout the area.
Well, and again, that's not necessarily going to be a big surprise. This happens throughout every year. So we just take it when it gets here and it'll be gone before you actually know it. Big thank you to Progressive Ag. They are our risk management specialists. They make sure we get the weather reports every day here on Weather and Ag in Focus. And also, if you have been out on the roads and if you have a bit of a weather report, because we went from no travel advised this morning in that Grand Forks area, which a lot of people stayed away from the International Crop Expo at the Alaris Center because of that. If you want to give us a little feedback about what the roads look like now, you can do that on the JLA Insurance phone line. Reach us at 701-293-9000. Meanwhile, crop insurance deadline of March 16th is coming very quickly. That's about the time Dean said we're going to have some changes in the weather. And you could reach out to Nate Thorsrud at JLA Crop Insurance. He's at 701-371-0311. Lighthouse Commodities is streaming our live stream today for us, and we appreciate that. They make sure that you can see us on Facebook, YouTube, as well as Acres TV. Acres TV will be at Commodity Classic next week, so you'll have quite the lineup of your favorites from the Acres TV app who are going to be there in person, happy to visit with you, and they'll also be doing panel discussions, etc. I intend to be on stage with them while I'm down there as well. And lastly, those emails. Happy to get them. Much happier to share any of the great information we get from you as listeners. And if you have questions about upcoming weather, sometimes Dean gets them about travel, where people should be going or when, or maybe they shouldn't be. You can send those emails to us to our email inboxes. Dean is weather@flagfamily.com. Mine is ag@flagfamily.com. And those inboxes are powered by Superior Grain Equipment. They make sure we have superior grain storage, drying, and handling solutions for your farm. All sorts of ways to reach us. And it's a Wednesday. We're going to have Wednesday weather trivia. That'll be brought to us by Darter Plastics. They have the personal bait ups for us. And that means no more bulky, leaking bait buckets. You know, the styrofoam ones that get kicked around and cracked and leak and leave a mess behind in your pickup or in your ice house. Well, don't worry about those. And you don't have to stick your hand in the slimy bait water to try to go get your minnows. Better yet, you can go ahead and use that personal bait up. If you win one today from Darter Plastics, you will be able to do that during Wednesday weather trivia. So that's just a few of the things that are going on. We'll be joined here a little bit later by our guest. Her name is Rachel Spencer Gable. She wrote a book called 90 Years of Catching History. It's the history of calf catching at National Western Stock Show in Denver. Now, I'm going to need to check my phone to see if I still have the pictures from when I saw the calf catch in Houston. But essentially, kids are in an arena, barehanded. Calves are released into the arena, and there's about a 2-to-1 ratio of kids per calf. Kids have to try to catch a calf and halter them and take them to the judges, because if they succeed, there's an opportunity for scholarship money at the Houston show. That those dollars are helping kids buy cattle so that they can increase their herd and so much more. And it is quite the feat to watch. I was going to call it a kick in the pants, but I really saw a few people get kicked in the leg that day when we watched it from the Houston Stock Show. So that's going to be great fun today when we visit about that book. It's Wednesday.
That should be a good one. Today is Wednesday weather trivia. I wasn't supposed to be here today, so when we go on break here, I've got to get a weather. Oh, does Bridgette have one?
I have one.
Oh, perfect.
I have one. I got one. My favorite, the Book of Useless Information, never fails me.
Okay.
I have a whole chapter on weather. So we are completely ready to go with Wednesday weather trivia, which we will do a little bit later in the hour.
All right.
But we're planning on that one for listeners today, again, for one of those Darter plastic bait ups. And since it is Wednesday, this is a day I usually talk quite a lot about machinery. Just so happens that there's some news coming from John Deere about machinery sites in the U.S. Currently, they are looking at 2 expansions. One will be in Indiana. That'll be a new distribution center. They've already broken ground there near Hebron, Indiana. And that is strategically located to enhance the supply chain capabilities nationwide. It's going to streamline operations to bring more timely delivery of parts and service. I said more timely. Some of you just rolled your eyes because we know how hard it can be to get parts and service when you need them at the most critical time. But it's not just going to be parts for ag. This will be turf, construction, forestry, mining, and more. And it's going to bring about 150 new jobs to the region. Secondly, there will be a site that's going to be built in North Carolina. That is going to be a state-of-the-art, cutting-edge excavator factory near Kemnersville in North Carolina, set to open next year. When folks think about excavation equipment, automatically our minds go to construction. But frankly, the vast majority of farmers today now have backhoes and excavators, payloaders, etc., that they're using when it comes time to be moving a variety of subjects, you might say. You know, all those rock piles we picked as kids, well, somebody's got to bury them. What a great reason to have a backhoe, and especially if you've got cattle. The far greater majority of producers these days are picking up payloaders, etc., which again normally are thought of in the construction lineup, but we see a lot more of them here being used in ag. Also, if we can get a chance to talk about it late today as well, there were some pretty stellar collector sales of tractors sold in 2025 that we can highlight. And I'll give you just one of them right now before we listen to the livestock report from the American Ag Network. I don't know if everybody's familiar with the fact that there is a tractor brand called White. Don't see Whites anymore, kind of like the Oliver line. And to find what was the White brand tractor, but it was a red stripe. That's a pretty rare tractor. And this one's got a pretty good story. Back in 1982, a dealer near Albany, New York, ordered 2 of these tractors, one for his inventory and one for his own operation. He went and picked them up directly from the factory in Ohio. But he set a rule. Only he and his son could run them. But that changed. One summer day in 1985, he came home to find his hired man raking hay with that prize tractor. And it kind of ended the working career of the tractor. He unhooked it, parked it, never really used it again. But when he parked it, the tractor still had the factory reminder tags on it, like drain the brake-in oil after 20 hours, deflate the tires after delivery, because they are shipped overinflated. And about 15 years ago, he sold that tractor to a family in Wisconsin. They've kept it in a bit of an easy retirement with a very large collection of Oliver muscle tractors. And finally, this past year, the family in Wisconsin decided to part with it, and they sold that vintage tractor with little to no hours on it, rare red striped, a white branded tractor, and because it never technically sold because it was ordered directly to a dealer, that tractor sold for $75,000. So there's a great story on just one tractor that's out there. Many of you have those stories as well. So after the livestock report, we're going to catch up with our author. That is Rachel Spencer Gable, 90 Years of Catching History from the National Western Stock Show in Denver. We'll be back. If you haven't had a chance to talk with Chris Sherman over at Tech Support Farm, you might want to take in one of the podcasts he's recently been a guest on. He was on the Farm for Profit podcast, and that was just part one. So you can check it out there. All of the question and answer that he did with the Farm for Profit guys. And part two will be recorded next week at Commodity Classic. So if you heard part one, part two is coming. And meanwhile, you can do the fence check assessment on the website for techsupport.farm in order to understand and know what you might need or could improve when it comes to your cybersecurity for your farm and agribusiness. Our guest today is Rachel Spencer Gable, and Rachel has recently written a book. It is called Catching History, the history of the calf catch at the National Western Stock Show in Denver. I read about her book in the Tri-State Livestock News, and it's a great article. I have been able to see the calf catch just one time. That was in Houston. And so, Rachel, we're probably going to have to start with what's the calf catch at the National Western Stock Show in Denver? And that's a big question, but let's start there.
Sure, sure. Well, thanks for having me on today. So, the Catch a Calf program is one of the oldest programs at the National Western that's been running since 1936. And just like it sounds, they turn out a certain number of calves, about half as many calves as there are kids. And those kids have halters, and they've got a certain amount of time to catch the calves and get them back across a line. And then those kids, they used to get that calf, but now they do that in January at the stock show, and then in May, I believe, they get a different calf. So this year it was all Herefords, which was great fun being in the new building this year and seeing 40 Herefords all lined up. But so they get they get to participate. The top two are sold in the junior market livestock sale, which is a very successful and lucrative sale. And then above a certain amount, all of the kids share in that beyond a certain point, like beyond a certain dollar amount. So it's a great opportunity. It's a good networking opportunity, great communication skill builder, all the good stuff.
There's a lot of things that go into this. And as you said, originally, the kids caught the calf and took that particular calf home with them. And that's now evolved to there's a certain breed. Do you know the impetus for that change of and who was sponsoring originally? Like, I'm just going to give you this calf to give away to a kid, but now we're going to do it by breed association. Kind of how did all of that evolve and change?
Well, it used to be ladies that were married to some of the business owners in Denver. And it was, that was when it was like 10 or 15 bucks to sponsor a calf. And as it grew and changed, like 1974 was the first year that girls were able to catch. And they always just try to get a set of calves that are pretty consistent all the way through. And Chuck Sylvester, who used to be the manager at the stock show, he's great. He's still living up in northern Colorado, but he said one year he brought in some eared cattle, and people just raised Cain because they were bringing eared cattle to Denver, which is just unheard of. And he said, but they were a really good, consistent set. So he's still defending that choice to this day. But it was
Okay,
probably the first set of 40 head eared cattle in Denver.
now I will have to say that I've got listeners who are thinking, what do you mean eared cattle? Don't they all have ears? So we got to define that for people, Rachel.
Yeah, we're talking like Brahman cattle that are made for real hot places: Brazil, Argentina, South Texas. Lots of Brahman cattle down there. Not a lot of Brahmins in Colorado, though. There are some Brayford crosses. I don't want to leave those out, but for the most part, not too many long-eared cattle, loose-hided up here, unless they belong to Survey Rodeo.
So how big are the calves? Because these kids are age group still like sophomores to seniors in high school, correct? But how big are the calves too? So we know what the ratio is on size.
They're about calf rope in size, so probably 300 pounds. It's tricky. My mother-in-law was actually one of the first girls to catch, and she said, she was ready. She grew up on a farm and ranch. She's like, "Oh, this is no sweat." And she'd been playing basketball, and she was like all state basketball. She was in shape. They were practicing. She's like, "This should be not too bad." But she said at the end, her legs were shaking so hard from trying to run in that dirt and then drag the calf and the adrenaline. And that's I heard that a lot over all of these interviews of, my goodness, it doesn't look that hard, but it is really hard.
Well, you're in a rodeo arena. This is a
Yeah,
large size area, and the calves are loose. The ground is plowed up to soft fallow, if you will. So you're probably mid shin trying to run through that to catch this spry 300-pound calf.
I would think probably so. Yeah. There was one gentleman that I spoke to who said he was on the buck and shoots one time because his buddy got a reride or something at the rodeo. And so he was there watching these kids. And he said they were sitting on the gate and that gate was just shaking. They were so nervous. You could hear the gate rattling. But he said, boy, they were just really sucking air when they came back. And it's high in Denver too. I mean, even just from where
Mm-hmm.
I live on the high plains to go to Denver, it's like, whew, that hill gets steeper every year.
So how are students chosen to do this? It's not like they just call 30 kids out of the grandstands to come on down to catch a calf, right?
Right. They have to apply, and it's typically kids that have done some sort of livestock before in 4-H. So they have some sort of background, and they try to really put a kid who has very little experience with maybe a sponsor who can really point them in the right direction, who's done this many times before. And then of course, they have to have the approval of their ag teacher or their 4-H agent. So they try to keep it so that it's exposing kids to something they've never seen and done before, but still not putting a kid that's never even seen a steer uh, in a position where it's going to be dicey.
Uh, this is it's a really cool way to get kids involved or more deeply involved perhaps in ag and in starting their own entrepreneurial projects, etc. So we want to continue to have this conversation with Rachel after the news. Want to ask her some questions like, how often does this happen during the run of the stock show, and what impact has this had on some of the students who've done it in the past? I mean, 90 years of history, there's some pretty big names who have been a part of this opportunity, and we'll have that discussion when we return. It is great fun to bring folks from other areas with traditions and ideas here to Weather at Ag in Focus, and we're doing that today. We're joined by author Rachel Spencer Gable. She wrote 90 Years of Catching History, all about the Northwest National Western Stock Show Catch a Calf program. Now, question for you, Rachel. Um, as you think about this program and how the program's changed over the years, do you think it's harder to find sponsors to sponsor the cattle and the scholarship dollars that students earn, or do you think it's a little bit easier in today's world?
Oh, I don't know that it's ever easy to do that, but I think so many of the sponsors have been sponsors for decades, some of them multiple generations. And it's because they recognize the value of the program. Um, Pat Shaw, who really funded this book, and is his idea, and it was all based on research that Dr. John Matsushima has kept for years and years. He's 105 now and did several
Wow.
book signings with me at the National Western. Yep. He is the guy who invented the process for steam flaked corn and the feed delivery truck. So he's done a lot of really important research at Colorado State University, and we're very lucky to still have him with us at 105 years old. But I think there's so much history to the program that people want to be involved. But what I started to say was Pat Shaw, the one who really
Hmm.
uh, put some funding behind this book and really got the momentum to get it going. He started as a catch a calf kid from Boulder County, and he recognized that he did pretty well at the county level, but he saw it as an opportunity to be at a national show, which was something that he wouldn't have had an opportunity to do otherwise. Well, 30 years later, he caught in 74, I think. So I guess it's a little more than 30 years. But um, I know, I was like, wait, I know how old I am. Shoot. The math wasn't mathing, but he caught in 74, and he's in the oil and gas business, and he's been very blessed and very successful. And so now he's able to turn that into sponsorship and um, putting this book into print, which has been certainly a labor of love, and all of the sales benefit the Catch a Calf program.
In the article that I read in Tri-State Livestock News, there were some really great examples of students who have been a part of the program and the impact that it had in their lives. And I'm hoping some of these ring a bell so we can talk about it a little more in depth with you, Rachel. And one was Richard Rennick, and he was 17. He was one of 10 boys to catch a calf in 1951. Um, and he said that the the crowd nearly screamed themselves hoarse trying to cheer for him because it took 12 minutes to catch his calf and drag it 30 feet to where it needed to be. But there was a lot that happened afterwards. This was a student who had some more challenges than everybody else trying to catch a calf, if you will.
He did, and that was his second or third attempt to catch a calf at National Western. And Richard Reinick, he was from Kersey, not too far from where I live, and he got his arm caught in a piece of farm equipment when he was 2 or 3 years old, so he had one arm. So when the crowd was cheering, they were cheering for him. He was getting the halter with his feet and dragging it over to him, and getting it and putting it on while holding this calf with one arm and putting the halter on with his teeth. And his sponsor or someone in the crowd said, would you consider allowing us to help you get a prosthetic arm? And he said, no, I do okay. And so they said, well, gosh, it would be really beneficial to you. Do you just want to check it out? Do you want to just see? And he said, I don't really want a prosthetic arm, but what I'd like is a hog. And so they were like, okay, fine. So they got him a hog, and he actually was a lifelong hog feeder. And in his obituary, when he passed away, he lived a good long life, all with one arm, mind you, and all
Yes.
feeding hogs. He mentioned his participation in the National Western Catch a Calf program in his obituary. That's how important the program was to him.
Oh, that's tremendous. The way it really helped him just get that launching pad to keep going. And I think it was no different once women were admitted to the program in 1974 and they were allowed to start catching, as you mentioned. some notable stories that you might remember from some of those young ladies who got into the thick of things as well?
Oh, absolutely. There's been a lot of really fantastic people that have come through the program. 9 Colorado Ag Hall of Fame inductees have gone through the program, like the who's who of the cattle showing world. It was kind of tricky on that first year, which was 1974, the first year they let girls do it, and they had it separated, girls and then boys. They didn't run them together like they
Oh.
do now. But of course, my mother-in-law was one of the first girls. Well, she said she was the first girl to catch a calf at Denver. And then I talked to another girl, and she said, "Yeah, I caught one in '74, and I was the first girl to catch at Denver." Oh, okay. And then I spoke to somebody else. She said, "Yeah, I caught a calf in 1974. I was the first girl to catch at Denver." And I thought, well, this is tough. But in print, it says that my mother-in-law was the first girl to catch a calf at Denver, because I'm no fool.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Go with the mother-in-law. Let's make Thanksgiving go a lot easier every time. Good move.
That's right. That's right. But there's certainly a lot of notable women in the program, and also as sponsors. Sue Ann Shoots Rogers is a tremendous, just a tremendous human. And the new building at Denver where the junior show is, actually bears her name. It's the largest agriculture building to bear the name of a woman in the U.S. And she's just a tremendous person, just in general. She's an itty bitty thing, wears a swipe of red lipstick. She's nobody's fool. She's a neat lady, and she's a rancher, and she's also a philanthropist. And of course, the Anschutz family is well known here in Denver for their philanthropy work. But some of these kids get a chance to trade letters with Sue Ann Shoots Rogers, or Pat Shaw, or Dr. John Matsushima, or any of these guys that sponsor the program. And just having that opportunity to network and to bounce ideas off people, and to have that person who, for a lot of these guys, they need a reference when they graduate from high school. And talk about having some great opportunities to have references. It's a who's who as far as the sponsors go, and a lot of strong women in the sponsorship realm as well.
Now, once students catch their calf and the day is done, so to speak, that's not the only thing they have to do. I would imagine there are letters, thank you letters that are sent out, and probably some follow-up with the program as well, correct?
Correct. There's a record book. So financial and feed records and photos and stories. They're required to send a monthly letter to their sponsors. They, when they physically take the calf, take possession of the calf, of course, the sponsors, for the most part, come out and check on them and see how they're doing. And they've got also access to their ag teacher or their extension agent, whoever, to kind of keep them going. And then they show at several prospect shows or progress shows. One of them is Colorado State Fair. There's another one, I think, in Adams County, which is near Denver. And so they go through those all in preparation for the National Western. And then when they're there, they show in the market class, and they're judged there. They're judged in showmanship, and then it's a combination of all of those things, and that's who is chosen as the champion. This year's champions both hailed, one from Nebraska and one from Wyoming. They were both girls, and all except for the reserve champion lamb were all female showmen in the first year in the Sue Ann Shoots building. So that was pretty cool to have so many women doing so well.
This book is fascinating. The stories, the history, the people who have participated over the years, and what it's brought to them in their young years and helped develop their future aspirations has just been tremendous. I strongly encourage everybody to pick up their copy. And let's be honest, Rachel, if they want to, where can they go and find it? And I think you even have a website.
I do. It's just rachelgable.com, RACHELGABEL. And all of my other books are on there as well. Lots of cattle themed and agriculture themed stuff for kids, and then the catching history as well. And you can leave me a note if you want it signed, and we'll get that shipped out. And like I said, all of the sales from Catching History go directly to that program. And there's a lot of just great history in there too. It's not just the Catch a Calf program. There's lots of good history about agriculture and about the stock show and all kinds of there's just lots of treasures in there. We had a good time.
There really are. And especially, like you said, when you have resources like the people who have been around for so long and know the stories and the lessons and are willing to share them, that's a tremendous treasure right there in itself. So, all right, Rachel, thank you so much for taking the time to visit with us today. And again, I'm hoping folks get out there and order that book from Rachel because, as I mentioned earlier, her name, just so you want to follow up, is Rachel Spencer Gable, and the book is 90 Years of Catching History, and it's the history of the calf catch at the National Western Stock Show in Denver. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
When we return, we still have Wednesday weather trivia. Hang tight. We'll get ready for that next.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus, 1:51 in the afternoon. And we're seeing a little break in the snow in the FM area and points north towards Grand Forks. But the back edge of this storm system stretching from, about Devil's Lake through Jamestown, Valley City, down to Wahpeton, and all of that moving eastward. So shortly we will see more snow pushing in from the southwest into the FM area here. So your evening commute probably going to be a little slippery. We'll see additional 1 to 2 inches as this band kind of hangs over the area from late afternoon through about the midnight hour. So not a whole lot of additional snow, but just enough to kind of grease up the roadways. And then tomorrow, a few snow showers in the 20s, and then we're in the teens Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with quiet weather through the weekend. Just temperatures a little bit below average for this time of the year. And weather trivia time, Wednesday weather trivia. And Bridgette has got this this weather trivia. She dug this out of one of her trivia books. So, but we have conflicting answers on this. So how about?
We do.
Yeah. So we'll let Bridgette throw the question out there and see what kind of answers we get.
Well, remember, at stake is a Darter Plastics personal bait up. Again, no more bulky, leaky buckets. This is your bait up where you can get fresh water into the container without having to lose any bait, because those minnows, slippery little suckers. So what we're going to use is the Book of Useless Information. This was copyrighted in 2006. That might be an important piece of information in your research today, listeners. You're going to be calling us on the JLA Insurance phone line, 701-293-9000. So here's the question. Based on 2006 calculations, a cubic mile of fog is made up of how much water? Again, this is based on 2006 calculations. A cubic mile of fog is made up of how much water? And I have to read that slowly because sometimes I read too fast and then I give away the answer. So listen to me, just be very careful with that. Okay, so yes, that is our Wednesday weather trivia question. Again, you can reach us on the JLA Insurance phone line, 701-293-9000. Once we get a winner, we'll have to explain the discrepancies that we saw, Dean, because we've been doing some research and we both have something different.
That's right. And we got a caller on line 1. Caller, what's your name and guess?
Well, guess who this is? Kevin. 50 to 60,000 gallons.
Bridgette?
So, yep, I'm going to tell you, Kevin, that's based on a newer calculation. I'm using the 2006 calculation.
Okay, I'm going for one more then.
Okay.
Okay.
This is for Dean. November 22nd, 2010, 1 foot in Fargo. Unless it's Bonnie's.
Oh no, yeah, Kevin, you are correct. Yeah, you were talking about what we were talking about on Steve's show. When's the last time we saw a foot of snow? Yeah, it was 2000. It was back in 2010. You're correct, Kevin. Good job.
You guys are great.
Well, I know Kevin's really been waiting to get one of these bait ups. So Kevin, I'm going to hold your answer off to the side. I want to see if somebody can get me the 2006 calculation. This one got a little tougher than you might expect. Okay.
Yeah.
So we got a plan.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
So Bridgette, did the calculation change between now and then, or how did this?
It appears to have.
Who knows?
What's that, Addison?
Yeah, like Addison said.
Who knows?
So considering I'm using the Book of Useless Information, the 2006 edition, I'd say some calculations changed.
I can hear.
I'd say immensely.
I can hear everyone furiously Googling, and I'll stop you dead in your tracks. I tried to Google it, more specifically to Bridgette's book. That answer does not come up on Google if you're trying to look it up.
It does not. It does not. And the answer that Bridgette has goes back to, I think, like an old folklore that used to, that they used to say.
Maybe. But here's the other thing I wonder. I wonder if the way the question that I have in the book is phrased is a cubic mile of fog is made up, meaning is that how much water it takes to create a cubic mile of fog? But even though when you were to condense it down into the water content, it would be a different number.
2 tablespoons, final answer.
She just blew my mind. She just absolutely blew my mind trying to analyze that there.
Well, there's a little science base going on over here. We're trying. I just think it's kind of fun that everybody gets a little bigger challenge than they might usually get,
Well,
right?
if we don't get the answer out of Bridgette's book, we're going to give this to Kevin.
ha-
We'll give this to Kevin.
Right.
Then, okay.
Yep, we'll have to do that because we're going to be explaining this as, what I saw is maybe the amount of water it takes to create the cubic mile of fog. But I'm not sure. I've never had to create fog before. I've certainly had to drive through it.
I've created a
never
lot
had
of
to
hot air, but never fog.
I'm pretty sure you can rent a fog machine from a party store.
You probably could.
Are Party City still a thing?
I'm sure
No,
some
When
are.
was the
I
last
don't
time
think
someone
they
saw one?
are.
Are they out of
those?
business?
No, they're out of business. But you know what, Addison? I'm going to be in studio tomorrow. If you can get that fog machine to the studio, people, we have a project
I
between
think
1 and 2 o'clock tomorrow.
I keep telling management that there are many ways that we could increase fun in the workplace, and a fog machine and a jacuzzi in the break room. They keep ignoring those suggestions, but I'm just saying it would significantly increase productivity around here, I think.
Look, we live stream, so whatever crazy contraption we're up to tomorrow, and if that includes a jacuzzi in the break room, look, there's live stream everywhere. Dean, finally, you get to break out that Speedo you're constantly talking about.
See, there we go. We can use it in the jacuzzi.
We have a golf simulator in the break room. Why can't we have a jacuzzi? It's not that far
That's
fetched.
a very good question. Yeah, I think we should.
I could hit a golf ball from a jacuzzi. I'm sure of it.
We've got the room.
I'm not brave
Okay.
enough to try the golf simulator in the break room. I'd take out a window.
I see one's already cracked. Thank you very much. So, okay, back to this question. Based on a 2006 calculation done in the Book of Useless Information, how much water makes up a cubic mile of fog? And we have an answer. Kevin called us with between a 56 and 60,000 gallon answer, but we know that that's a later date calculation. So people must still be all finding the same answer, not the older calculation, which I find very, very interesting.
Well, they can't find it.
know what-
They can't Google it. They're like Addison said, you're not going to be able to find
Okay,
it.
We need to think
I just wanna
outside
point
the
out-
box. Someone try Bing.
outside the book. Because again, how cool is it when you actually have a book in your hand, something with information? You don't just have to type it away.
Nerd.
You guys don't care. You don't want to know about my book collection going on. Fine.
All right,
All
we're out
right.
of time. Kevin, you win.
We are.
So give us a call back in here, and or just stop by the station. Just stop by the station. We'll have one waiting down there for you at the front desk.
The answer in the book is a cubic mile of fog is made up of less than a gallon of water.
That's a big
We're
difference.
going to have to debate
That's a
that
big
again.
difference.
That's a
We're
big
going to debate
difference.
that another time.
All right. So for
All right, I'll blow
Bridgette,
your mind later.
there you go. Thanks for joining us. Jay Thomas Show is next.